It's Hawaii, 1942, just months after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Tension is sky high in the Pacific when the largest active volcano on Earth decides this is the moment to wake up.
So the military did something almost unimaginable. They bombed it. Why? Lava is incredibly destructive, dangerous, and in this case, was providing a giant flashing arrow pointing at a military target.
Imagine this. Mauna Loa's summit split open. Fountains of fire shot almost 300 feet into the air.
Worst timing ever.
Because remember, it was the middle of a world war. This volcano wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a national security risk. And all that glowing lava was a giant neon sign visible from miles away.
US military leaders feared Japanese pilots could use that fiery glow as a perfect target marker to guide warplanes at night and facilitate an invasion of Hawaii.
With news of the eruption censored and the island under strict blackouts, the military governor decided the lava itself had to be stopped, and quickly. And not just because of the glow, but because the flow was also inching towards critical infrastructure. Things like the water system feeding the Army hospital and ammunitions depots near Hilo.
Kids, don't try this at home. The Army Air Force loaded up 16 bombs, 300 to 600 pounds each, and flew over the lava field to try and shut down that volcano by force. Their goal wasn't to blow up the lava itself, but to collapse the lava tubes, stopping the flow, breaking the pipes, slowing the river.
Wherever would they get such a fantastic idea from? Well, in fact, they had tried it once before in 1935 when volcanologist Thomas Jagger requested military intervention to disrupt similar lava flows that were heading towards Hilo. At that time, 40 bombs were dropped by the US Army Corps to stop the lava from reaching the town.
Did it work?
Depends who you ask. The flow was bombed on December 27th, and lava stopped flowing on January 2nd. Jagger was convinced that the 1935 bombing was successful. The lava tubes and channels were all destroyed, and that stopped the advancing flow.
But
many others, including the USGS geologist who was on board the last plane to deliver bombs, think it was just a coincidence.
And what about in 1942?
Well, the bombs hit their targets and the flows did slow down over the next 2 weeks, and they finally stopped, still miles from Hilo, so everybody and everything was safe. But scientists don't think the bombs had much of anything to do with the slowing. The final assessment, bombing likely had little to no impact on the eruption or the flow's direction. Now, let's think specifically about why this plan failed. Sure, lava is powerful, but to be honest, this one may have more to do with the hubris of humans rather than the strength of lava.
This plan was based on the idea of diversion. The explosions were aimed at getting the lava to flow in a less problematic direction, which is incredibly difficult.
In this case, the lava was diverted only a short distance before it just rejoined its original channel, like the Terminator reassembling itself. Diversion requires carefully assessing the descent path and the trajectory to divert the flow at the steepest point so a new path can be directed away from the old one. It sounds simple, right? Yeah, sure. But surprisingly, history has taught us that diversion is nearly impossible to achieve successfully in practice. It requires a very, very sophisticated understanding of both the terrain and the complex fluid properties of lava. Getting those targets wrong can have disastrous results. Just ask the Romans.
Picture Sicily, 1669. Sunny, citrus-scented, and sitting right next to that is the most active volcano in Europe. My mom. Just kidding, it's Mount Etna. Etna has been erupting for thousands of years, and everyone living on the slopes knew that. So, it's pretty dangerous, but it's also got really, really fertile soil. Basically, Etna was the world's riskiest garden.
Yeah, so when it started rumbling on March 8th, people were just like, it's all good. And I hoped it's just, Etna being Etna. But this time, the mountain really wasn't bluffing. Within days, Etna unleashed choking fumes, and then came the ash. And that launched so high and so violently, it fell across the sea almost 100 miles away onto mainland Italy.
And the lava? A river of molten rock started pouring down Etna's south flank, laser focused on the city of Catania. As the city's 20,000 residents watched it come closer and closer and closer.
You might be surprised to learn that even then, most people didn't flee. Instead, a local man named Diageo de Pappalardo rallied about 50 volunteers for what might be the bravest and most chaotic, probably also, lava engineering attempt in all of history. Using cowhide armor, they stormed the volcano.
You don't make this stuff up. They soaked animal skins in water, wrapped themselves up like medieval firefighters, grabbed long iron rods and picks, and climbed right up to the lava flow. Their plan was to crack the lava flow open, the cooling crust on the lava's edge, and carve a new channel to send the lava flowing west, away from Catania. What could possibly go wrong, eh?
Shockingly, it did work, sort of, for a brief period of time. When they broke through their crust, the lava began spilling into a new breach because lava follows the path of least resistance.
Woohoo!
No, definitely not.
Oh.
Definitely not, because the lava's new path pointed it to a different town, Paterno. And the people of Paterno were not happy to inherit someone else's problematic apocalypse. So they then raced uphill, confronted the Catanians, and literally fought them off while the lava breach cooled and sealed up again.
So the lava went back to heading toward Catania. And still, most people didn't leave. They hoped the lava would slow, or that the city's ancient stone walls would protect it. Emphasis on ancient, because it did not work.
That lava swallowed those walls like butter and just kept moving. By the end, 14 nearby towns were erased and tens of thousands of people were left homeless.
It was so catastrophic that the government decided to make a new rule. They banned all attempts to divert or alter lava. No more messing with lava flows. How often do people mess with lava flows in Italy? I'd like to ask.
It's a good question,
And
actually.
get this, they banned that up until 1983.
But let's understand why these tactics failed in the first place. And to do that, we need to discuss fluid dynamics. So lava flows typically start as a river of rock, and that river pours downhill because, well, gravity, right? Sure. That river follows the path of least resistance. Our Sicilian friends certainly learned that. But what really decides how fast that river flows is viscosity, how sticky or runny that molten rock is.
Lava is a viscous liquid, like molasses, motor oil, peanut butter. Viscosity depends on many factors, but an important one is silica. More silica equals thicker and slower, like a cold oatmeal. And less silica, well, think like a melted chocolate fountain. Do we have any of those?
I don't think we have either of those things. A key lesson from the many, many times that humans have actually tried to stop or divert lava is that not all lava behaves the same. And barriers have to be built differently depending on the kind of lava that you're facing in your particular apocalypse. For example, Pahoehoe is a low viscosity, low silica lava, and it's usually described as smooth and ropey. It's prone to pooling and spilling, kind of like maple syrup. So barriers for this kind of lava, they need to think more about height and potential areas of overflow or penetration rather than just being brutally strong. Compare that to other forms of lava like block lava, which is thicker, chunkier, it's got more silica, and it can be a real structural threat. Barriers to control this form of lava needs to be extra strong and extra massive.
But it's not just about viscosity. The slope of the terrain matters too, you see? The steeper the ground, the faster the lava is gonna go, you see? The fusion rate, how much lava is gushing out, also matters, because, I mean, if the lava's like, that ain't gonna be much, but it's like,
Bottom line, lots of lava coming at a fast rate plus a steep hill means many more challenges in stopping the flow and predicting how it will move as you try to divert it. But there is one more factor that makes lava the most dangerous land smoothie that humans still have not been able to control. Let's head to popular lava tourism destination, Iceland, to demonstrate.
imagine waking up one morning to find your entire island about to be consumed by a wall of fire.
In 1973, that's exactly what happened to Jaime, Iceland. 1/5 of the town vanished under fresh lava. To stop this molten beast, Icelanders did something totally wild. They tried to freeze the lava with ocean water. A desperate idea about to slam against a very real, very unstoppable force.
15 days into the eruption, lava was steering itself straight toward this town's lifeline, its harbor, which, without that, no economy, because fishing is their entire economy, really. So, pretty bad. So, know what the firefighters did? They put on water-soaked cowhide, just kidding. They, pointed seawater hoses at the lava's glowing front, beach. They were trying to cool it down.
And strangely, it kind of worked. Just like a little bit though. Where the water hit, the lava slowed, it stiffened, it formed these rocky pillars that kind of crunched upward out of the molten front.
Think of it like splashing cold water on hot caramel. It will skin over, but not underneath, still molten.
But these initial efforts were at least hopeful that the hard skin may just be enough to slow or stop the lava. So Iceland said, let's scale this up. More water, more freezing. They went full force. Pumps and pipes and fire hoses and bulldozers, building big dirt walls and ramparts, all aimed right in front of the lava.
For weeks, they blasted the lava front with up to 100 liters of seawater a second. The cooled rock piled up and thickened the rampart, but the lava grew higher. 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters tall! That's as tall as a 7-story building. That building has 7 stories inside of it. That's...
And the water, too much of it just ran off before it reached to the parts that mattered. So it was kind of like fighting a river of fire with glorified super soakers. So they brought in more pumps and more pipes, and they just kept at it. Doubled down Iceland. I like it.
Then that cheeky lava made its move, swung north, headed straight for the harbor entrance. If that entrance is clogged, Heine's entire economy future will be trapped behind the wall of rock.
So Icelanders threw everything they had at this Bond villain? I don't know. Fire trucks on the breakwater. They've had boats blasting water from sea. And then they brought in the Sandy. Now, the Sandy was a pumping dredge with a water cannon the size of a small car. It definitely slowed the lava, but then caused it to swell, forming a blister that blocked the water from getting to the most critical areas. So now the only option was to flip the streams and cool the lava from behind that giant bulge. But that meant laying pipes onto the lava itself so the water could reach its target.
This might be the most wild part about the story. So what they did, they drove a bulldozer on still moving, still molten lava, which, so amazing, I lost my train of thought. That is, first of all, totally metal. Second of all, how do you even drive a bulldozer on a liquid?
It's like the biggest game of the floor is lava ever.
Hey, you read my sweatshirt?
And this is probably a good time to mention that lava is incredibly dense, maybe 2 to 3 times denser than water. It's denser than concrete, significantly denser than the human body, which means that you would float on lava if you could survive insanely hot temperatures, which you probably can't.
However, please do not try laying, diving, or otherwise interacting with lava unless you are a trained volcanologist, or at least an Icelandic.
Anyway, shockingly, that dozer didn't sink, and it seems like tephra ash on the surface of the cooling lava helped act as a kind of insulator. So they carved roads across growing cracks, they bolted together giant pipes, and they pushed them as far as 200 meters onto that lava field. It was amazing and nearly impossible, but meter by meter, they extended the line to reach the front.
Then they turned the pumps on full force. 500,000 cubic meters of seawater blasted into the lava. And for the first time, they stopped the lava like a drawn curtain of stone. Why'd I get an accent anyway?
I don't know. It's not an Icelandic accent. Behind it, lava pressed so hard it buckled the surface. But the barrier held. And the harbor, it was saved by about 100 meters. Success? In total, they poured 6 million cubic meters of seawater onto that lava. And about 4 million cubic meters of molten rock solidified because of that seawater. But that was just a fraction of the estimated 250 cubic meters of volcanic material that erupted.
It didn't save every street, but it saved the harbor, and by extension, the island's future. So, what do you think? Can you stop lava by freezing it?
Maybe briefly. If you have weeks of non-stop effort, the Atlantic Ocean at your disposal, dozens of pumps, and the courage to drive a bulldozer onto a molten, glowing lava field.
You can slow it, sometimes even redirect it, but stop it full force? Nope.
No, and the challenge to control lava here points to the most obvious problem with lava. It is incredibly hot. The theory here was that by spraying the lava with water, it will cool and freeze at least part of the flow. But here's the catch. The temperature of molten rock is often well above 1,000 degrees Celsius, and temperature is a major factor in how lava behaves.
Thanks to the second law of thermodynamics, hot things become cold, which oddly enough also creates problems for trying to control lava because as lava travels, it loses heat. Gas escapes, crystals form, and suddenly it's thickening like pudding left out too long. Starts acting like a non-fluid.
Near the vent, lava acts like a fluid, but as it cools and crystallizes, it becomes non-Newtonian. Cooling, that builds a crust on top of the lava, right? But underneath that molten lava, it's still flowing. It sneaks through tubes, it spills into branches, a whole underground highway system of fire.
So the flow on top is lying to us?
Always. Just when you think the lava is slowing, it breaks open somewhere else. Now these instabilities, the folding, the cracking, the rifting, all of it, it sculpts its surface and it makes predicting its path a total nightmare.
So what you're saying is, lava isn't just a liquid, it's a shape-shifting monster.
Exactly that. And every factor, the slope, the gas, heat, chemistry, all of it, it keeps changing as it moves. That's why lava control is almost impossible. You're fighting a process that keeps changing, a creature that keeps leveling up as you're trying to battle it. But even so, the battle is not entirely hopeless.
Again, we look to the Icelandic lava whisperers for guidance. Tell us your wisdom. Bulldozer!
Iceland's most recent and repeated eruptions at Fagradalsfjall. These allowed for more strategic assessment of techniques to divert and delay lava flows. Now here, Icelanders have constructed dams, different sized barriers, all of which have helped them redirect lava flows away from populated areas and critical infrastructure. And they've managed to delay advancing lava in some places up to 16 days.
They proved that with the right strategy under certain conditions and by matching techniques to the properties of lava, you can control lava enough to buy time for planners and emergency teams to protect life and even save critical infrastructure.
And maybe, just maybe, this should be the real goal when it comes to lava. Not domination, but delay. And just enough so that you can save homes, geothermal plants, even favorite tourist attractions like this one. That oddly enough started as a natural disaster itself.